Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Okay, we're back. We had a false start there, and then our internet was cut off again. Second night in a row, just as the broadcast was, about to begin last night. And as the broadcast begins, and I apologize, I have no explanation. I don't know why. But we're back online. I was able to reset everything, and we have a lot to talk about because Portland is basically on fire. It looks like a war zone. Trump has sent troops in there, has authorized the use of full force if necessary, as basically what you have is a war on the streets that has erupted between Antifa and ICE and some others. But that's basically what's happening. America is already at war, and Trump is using the word war. So we'll show you and talk about it a bit. Also, disturbed, concerned, as I see a Canadian flag burned at that ostrich farm protest in British Columbia. I'll be back. We'll get into it.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, I don't know if I should begin with the flag burning. Let's do that. Okay. The peaceful ostrich protest out at the Edgewood Farm in British Columbia took this turn.
I don't feel like a Canadian anymore. Do you ever feel like you just are on some foreign land? Where's our freedom? Where's our choices? Where's our love? Where's our compassion? Where's our hearts? Make these ostriches, please. They deserve life.
Anybody that's offended by that, think about what this government is doing. You should be more offended than a flag.
Not offended. Not offended.
Nope. Deeply offended.
I have lost so much faith. Oh God,
I'm done.
Yeah.
We're going to move on. We'll come back to it. I might comment from time to time through the broadcast. I might possibly editorialize. Forgive me if I do. Try not to. Just be impartial. Give everybody a voice. Free speech, free expression. But not me. I'm not allowed. But I might. Just a little bit. When we come back to the ostrich farm story, I'm almost as disturbed and concerned as I look at what's going on in the United States tonight. Maybe I should be more concerned even about that, because it is like out of control down there in Portland. Where the president of the United States has sent in troops and is authorizing the use of, his words, full force. As ICE and Antifa face off against each other. Because people just seem to want to go to war. Here's what it looks like.
Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! I told multiple ones to get back.
Yeah. What's Trump saying about this? So, because everything shut down, I have to reconnect. Okay, here we are. Not that I'm under attack or anything, or that, people don't want, I'm sure that it's not that somebody wants to suppress the channel or suppress my voice or yours. I'm sure of it. It's just a glitch. Because I'm not paranoid or anything. I try not to be. Here's the president of the United States, the distinguished Donald Trump, at the request on Truth Social, because he's a social media animal. At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War it's the Gulf of Mexico, by the way. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland. War with a capital. I'm looking at it. And any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. Words matter, especially when you're the president. These are not words to be taken lightly. He goes on. I am also authorizing, with 2 capital letters, capitalized, full force, if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The words really matter because he's the president. Because if the president declares a group of people like Antifa, which is sort of ambiguous, like what is Antifa? Who's the leader? Is it a foreign army? But they're domestic terrorists. Who's a member of Antifa? If you designate them to be domestic terrorists, they basically lose most of their rights. And the military force, which you've unleashed upon Portland, then has pretty much carte blanche to do whatever they want, especially when you authorize the use of full force, if necessary, which means they can shoot people and kill them in the streets. People who up until now have been protesters, not always peaceful, quite often doing things they ought not do that are incredibly illegal. And yes, that needs to be reined in. And I've called that out, as have many other people. And it's gone too far. And the Democrats let it go too far. But now you are on the verge of having protesters deemed to be domestic terrorists for political reasons being shot in the streets of the United States by the military, authorized by the president, who is using language to normalize it and just basically say it's okay. Which means civil war, essentially, because you have 2 warring political groups, both of which at this time seem to me to be bad choices, that are fighting, going head to head in the streets. And it's clearly out of control as Trump tries to take control. The thing that really concerns me as a Canadian is that the US politics is kind of bleeding over the border into our country and making people crazy. 51st state, tariffs, everybody's afraid. There's US money flying around up here. Since the beginning of this country's history, US influence has always been a major issue. Not also, the connection to Britain and people of, the family compact, and you've got the history of, the Laurentian elites and all of these issues. But through it all, not only was, our sovereignty, which we have been able to obtain, to separate ourselves to the point where we are self-determining as a nation state from Britain. We are a sovereign country. Don't let the American influencers down there and the big US money tell you otherwise, and all the bullshit propaganda that they've been feeding us, especially since the pandemic began. It's a real freaking country up here. But the US politics down there, bleeding up here, and it's heavily influenced by all this US money. And that is what is going on. And I don't want in this country, what I'm seeing down there in Portland tonight, I'm sorry if I'm editorializing, but I'd rather not have blood on the streets here, which is why Sir John A. Macdonald wanted a parliamentary type of system in Canada in 1867 when we were confederated, instead of a freaking republic like the United States, where he had seen what the American Civil War was like. And as we are now witnessing here again, as history, I don't know if it's not really repeating, but it sure as hell is rhyming. And we are that close. not just a World War III, but a civil war. And the civil war is no accident, because the people who want that civil war, I suspect that some of those people might have other motives that are geopolitical, global in objective. Because if you can tear apart the United States, especially the US and Canada too, because we're much more powerful and influential, especially economically, than people realize around the world. So if you can just rip the country apart, destabilize it, as we're heading into a third world freaking war, well, you just removed the world's largest superpower from the entire equation, especially over in Eurasia. We're not going to participate in any of those wars over there because we're going to be, because you're too busy fighting on the streets, getting ready to shoot your own citizens. And the people on the other side are too busy trying to throw rocks and Molotov cocktails and whatever other bloody things they're doing down there. And don't bring it here. I don't want it. Oh, my opinion. Because I don't want the bloodshed. And it's not needed. Don't want it. Don't need it. Nope. I choose none of the above. I'm not really crazy about the nuclear weapon thing either when Trump's sending the nuclear subs or when Putin is threatening to nuke us. I don't like it. It makes me feel kind of uncomfortable. Like, please don't nuke us. Please don't nuke them. Please don't nuke us. Okay? That would be really nice if we could just not do that. Please stop threatening to use nuclear weapons. I'll feel much better. I'll sleep better at night. Then maybe I'll take a day off and not sit in the chair. But I have to. At least I feel like I have to. I don't even know if it makes any bloody difference anymore, because everybody is like, you don't know what you're talking about. The ostriches, save the ostriches. Focus on something freaking important, man. Okay, because we are at war. And the ostriches are BS. It's all BS down there. Because it's not really about the freaking ostriches. It's all political, all of it. And there's huge U.S. money in there. It's about U.S. oil. It's about the big agribusiness. Oh, we're going to save the family farms. No, you're not. Opposite. John Catsimatidis, WABC, owns the largest grocery store chain in New York State. Why do you think he's interested in an ostrich farm and the policies that this Canadian Food Inspection Agency enforces for the Canadian government, which is related to tariffs and our cross-border trade and international trade, poultry, dairy, because the bird flu is getting into the milk supply, by the way. Not talking about it too much out there because they don't want to scare the hell out of you, but it's happening. Oh. Talking to friends down in the States, just, via email and so on, just in the last, and they're like, it's getting really bad down here. I know. It's getting bad up here too. When I say bad, I mean it's too much conflict, too much division. Is people aren't being nice to each other. Even they want to fight. I'm going to go and have a baseball bat match at the freaking park in Toronto. That'll solve everything. No, it won't. Makes everything worse, at least for a while. Really bad. I'm going to burn a flag. That'll solve it. I'm not ashamed of that. No, not offended at all. What have I been sitting in the chair for? How many? Almost every night since the pandemic, since the Freedom Convoy. Why? Because I want my country back. I want Canada. I'm trying to save the damn country. I don't want to tear it down, burn it to shit. trying to save it.
Well, you can't because it's not even really exist. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't anymore. Nope, it's not the same, Rick. We just can't. No, it's not possible. We'll never elect another conservative government as long as, because we just don't have the.
Yeah, so then you don't believe in freaking democracy. And what you're really saying is you can't win at the polls, so we got to go to war. Well, no. You know why the conservatives lost the last election? First of all, Pierre Poilievre has people around him right now who are giving him really bad advice, because the advice they're giving him is to go harder right. Do you know why the conservatives blew it like they always do? Because they went too hard right. And more than that, they just went way too negative. They shit all over the country. That's all he does. Shit on the country on Monday, shit on the country on Tuesday, do it 7 days a week, and then repeat. Because he's in opposition, so he has to just criticize everything, I guess. That's the way he thinks. But he's taking it so far, and all these influencers who are paid by the Conservative Party, by the way, most of them, not all of them, some of them get money from other places. But if you ask Maxime Bernier, he's posted about it. He calls them paid conservative influencers because they are. And they're paid to crap all over the country to make you feel like shit as a Canadian. To be ashamed of it, to hate the country, to hate it. What kind of leader is that? No, there's a way to criticize without crapping all over your country, but he hasn't been doing it. So they lost the election because Trump is also crapping all over our country, because there's a whole machine behind that 51st state stuff and huge money. And it's a real freaking thing. That's what's going on partly out of that farm. Whether the protesters out there realize it or not. But Poilievre blew it. He had that huge lead because they had people convinced that, oh, it sucks so much to live here. Everything's terrible. It's all Trudeau's fault. Then Carney comes in, and then Trump is like, yeah, 51st state, screw Canada. You're not even a real country. And then people realized, you know what? It's maybe not that bad, and I kind of do want Canada. And so the Liberals won because the conservative influencers, it wasn't even Poilievre. It's these influencers who just, excuse my language, but they shit on this country every freaking day. They lie, they exaggerate, like beyond. Like, I mean, like they exaggerate to the point where it's like incomprehensible to me how somebody can come up sometimes with the scale of the exaggerated lie that they use, especially in their headlines and thumbnails, in order to get people to click on it, while they then shit all over the country. And then, of course, they just blame it on the Liberals, which isn't even just, the Liberal Party. It's like liberalism, and it's just become this word which people don't even really understand, but they think of it as like, I don't know, it's this abstract thing. I mean, I have my own definition of what liberalism is, and neoliberalism and classical liberalism, and there's different kinds of liberalism, but you just can't be a liberal now. They just throw that word out. It's like toxic. If they call you a liberal, then you're canceled instantly. So they just shit all over the country. I'm tired of it because it doesn't help. We got to get the libs out. Yeah, well, what are we going to get? Because I don't even know on the other side. This is why, I left the Conservative Party as kind of a voter supporter, as a conservative, a long time ago. Because they keep meandering. You don't really know what you're getting with them. First, it's, Scheer, or you got O'Toole, and it's like they're kind of over on the left. They're too left. And then they come in, and now you got the UCP and all the Alberta people, the conservatives, and they kind of get their hooks into it. And they staged basically an inter-party coup during the Freedom Convoy to get Poilievre basically positioned so he could take over the leadership, which is something, again, people don't really realize, but that's one of the major things that happened as a result of the Freedom Convoy. The separatists, the out in Alberta, and the conservative party out there, largely populated that party now, occupied, infiltrated, whatever it is the party of the separatists, as much as some of the separatist parties are. Although you still have some people in the party who are not per se, but generally speaking, it is. And so this is like why it's so destabilized out there right now. And they've got their hooks into Poilievre. And now that he lost his first election, had to have the by-election. Now he's out there. So he goes out for the by-election so he can get a seat in the House and stay on as leader. So they parachute him into the super safe conservative riding in Alberta. What is it? Battle River Crowfoot. Now he owes as leader, especially the conservative riding association out there, where they made the room for him, and the conservative base of support heavily concentrated right now in Alberta. He owes them, so he's there, tail wagging the dog. And now, isn't it interesting to see a few of those conservative members of parliament coming out now at the 11th hour to save the ostriches? Why am I not surprised? And we're treated like lab rats. We are. Or like trained seals. Yeah. Somebody said to me, you have to do another story. Like, you should be doing stories on Marineland. Oh, I know. It's terrible what's going on at Marineland with the animals out there. But then I'm thinking, it's like they had the trained seals at Marineland in Niagara Falls when it was still open, not open this year. How do they train them? They feed them. Every time you do something that they want you to do, as if you're the seal, right? You do the trick, they give you a fish. You do another trick, they like it, they give you a fish. What they do here in social media land and in politics is if you do something they like, they push dark money into your donation box, your PayPal or your Super Chats, and they feed you. Whether it's the FSB, formerly KGB, or the CIA, or whoever it is, or the Mossad, that's the way it works. They don't come right out and say, I'm going to fund you. I'm the CIA, or I'm a foreign government agent. Would you like to come to work for us? No, what they do, sometimes key people, give them money. But these influencers, they like, I don't get any money. I can tell you that, because I don't go like this. And how do you do that? How do you put how do you beg like that? What they do is, if you produce a video that fits their narrative, and generally speaking over here, if it's destabilizing to the country in some way, if you crap all over Canada, the money comes in. And then, because they control the algorithm, they also boost your videos. And if you say stuff that doesn't quite fit, or if you're a little bit of a problem and maybe you're going to put the brakes on their narrative, you kind of get suppressed, and you don't get a fish. And that's the way it works. And then it's plausibly deniable, because if someone says, well, you're a foreign agent working for a foreign government. No, I'm not. No, I'm just an influencer shitting all over my country, and I don't know who's donating to me. That's the way it works. Or maybe if you're saying things they don't like, maybe your internet gets cut off as you're about to go live a couple nights in a row, or maybe they attack your servers again. Maybe. Could happen if you believe in conspiracies. What's the truth? Oh, who the hell knows? Who cares anymore? Just pick a side. You want to be on the ICE side, because now they have the government and the law on their side, or you can be on the Antifa side. And they used to have sort of like, they were like the brown shirts for the left. And of course they had some protection because, let's face it, if you're out there in the streets and you're doing the dirty work for politicians, maybe they go a little lighter on you if you do get charged. Or maybe the charges kind of get dropped. Yeah, maybe. But now Trump's in the White House and things are a little bit different. But they've still got the governors and a lot of those Democrat states and Democrat cities, and Trump don't like them. So got to go to war. Oh, yeah, he's got to go to war with the Dems, see? But what's the issue? Oh, immigration. Okay. Well, there's a hot button issue. Let's fight about that. There's a good pretext and some truth probably to it too. Yep. So that's a really good one. And then you've got the optics and the face off and it's racial. So you're going to get people really jacked up and you get them fighting. And this is just the beginning. Go look at social media. Just do a scroll through YouTube, Twitter, just type in Civil War. Oh, yeah, it's one of the top search phrases right now. I told you that the other night. Just half the videos in my YouTube feed. What was it? Was it 3-4 nights ago? I said, Civil War, Civil War, Civil War, Civil War, pending Civil War. Oh, my God. And this is the peace president. Doesn't feel very peaceful out there. Am I editorializing? Well, what night is it? It's Saturday. So let's just kind of get a little looser. Weekend warriors are out in full force. Wow. Wow. They burned the flag. I thought they loved the country. I thought they were out there to save the country, save Canada, No, yeah, right. And I don't think so. I don't think so. You want to know? You know what I mean by feeding the seal the fish? Here, look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu. This is just, well, I think it was yesterday. And he's meeting with his social media influencers, his team, when he was in America. And here, look, I've got him. I found the clip here on X. Bring it up. Just listen to the way he talks. And look at this. Benjamin Netanyahu meets his Israeli puppets on TikTok and paid donors from the Israeli lobby to discuss on how to censor pro-Palestine content and instead implement pro-Israeli media. We must stop this. Well, I've got news for you. If you don't know already, the other side's doing the same damn thing. They're all doing it. That's why journalism is kind of dead.
So something I would like to raise, which was actually my first published paper, was how you and the Likud party are cut from the same ideological cloth as Trump and the GOP in America. And so specifically with Charlie Kirk's assassination, who was a big mentor of mine, who's my first mentor in the space, evangelicals, from all my research, evangelicals are the reason that Israel has been supported in public sphere outside of just Jews. So with Charlie's assassination and with the kind of trajectory that we see with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I guess I'm curious about what's another game plan if we lose evangelical support for the state of Israel. What's our backup plan to be strong, like outside of the diaspora?
Christian influencers. Okay. You said He talked about the woke right, and he said, I call it the woke Reich. That's a brilliant observation. The woke Reich, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane, they're loonies. But they're actually meeting on some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster. Okay? We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, you know, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class
Followers.
TikTok. TikTok. Number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. Exactly. Very good. And, you know, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people and give direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our Jewish our friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong counterpart? Yes.
It's an information war. Alex Jones didn't pick the title or the name for his news or whatever it is platform, InfoWars, by accident. He's telling you exactly what it is. It's information warfare. And he is directly engaged. One of the first to kind of strike out in a non-journalistic, propagandistic, influencer way. Well, he's really a journalist. Well, it is kind of maybe journalism, but it's an information warfare platform. And if you want your political agenda promoted, you feed the seal. Feed me. It's not we have to stop those damn Jews because they're all out there using the social media to spread their propaganda. Yeah, well, the other side's doing it too. Trump's doing it. The Democrats are doing it. The liberals are doing it. The conservatives are doing it. The Palestinians are doing it. The Russians are doing it. The Chinese are doing it. The Taiwanese are doing it. Everybody's doing it. The Ukrainians are doing it. The MAGA maniacs are doing it. The Ukrainianiacs are doing it. Everybody's doing it. And everybody's losing their freaking minds as a result because everybody that gets sucked down into the rabbit holes loses their brains. Sucked out of their ears through their nostrils and replaced with, I don't know what, mush. The lizard-brained people from Planet X. Oh, yeah. and the propaganda. It's like especially the anti-Semitic stuff right now. They're ramping it up. They've gone from fourth gear into fifth, and now they're going into overdrive, baby, because I just heard stuff in the last 24 hours talking about Roseanne Barr talking about what we're really looking at now is Soylent Green. You know the movie Soylent Green? Maybe you're not familiar. It's a movie about dead bodies being turned into these little biscuits, dead human bodies, and then they're feeding them to people because there's overpopulation on the earth. And so she says, yeah, we're watching Soylent Green for real. And then it wasn't like 12 hours later, I started seeing posts about, oh my God, the kind of meat that they're serving at McDonald's. Okay. And references to this Rabbi Finkelstein and and these influencers who are referring to this old interview from Rabbi Finkelstein talking about how, oh my God, can I even say this on here without getting banned? About babies, dead baby meat being served in McDonald's and other fast food restaurants and put into the food supply. It's an old interview. And this is what they're starting to feed people now to get people upset, especially, the anti-Jewish political side. This is what they're feeding people now again. This is overdrive. That whole interview, it's an old radio interview and long known to be a complete fabrication, that the host of the show had somebody call in and pretend to be Rabbi Finkelstein, a fictional person who apparently doesn't even really exist. And it was just full of all this anti-Jewish bullshit. And people still, it still does all kinds of damage out there, because it's still out there, and they're recycling it again. And it's like a gigantic lie. I don't know if the guy who was on the radio at the time, who did that, even realized how incredibly gross and, well, you know what? He's actually a verified white supremacist, so he probably didn't give a shit. Probably is happy that it's done what it's done, but it's not true. I'm not saying that everything is not true. I'm not saying that all the conspiracies are wrong. There's some truth in some of them. We all know that. But that whole interview, that's a fabrication. And they're using, and I don't know. I haven't eaten at McDonald's in a long time, but I don't know. I don't think that's what they're serving us. Pretty sure not. Because, you know why? Because we have standards. We have rules. I'm pretty sure there's a government regulation that says, thou shalt not put human remains into McDonald's hamburgers. I'm pretty sure. And if they got caught doing it, they might get into a little bit of trouble. That's because we have food safety standards. Not everybody wants to follow those rules. A lot of people just like to do their own thing. Like, I don't know, set up an open air bio lab to do COVID research on ostriches and inject them repeatedly with COVID antigens. But don't talk about that, Rick. Why not? Well, you might get your internet cut off.
You don't know what you're talking about, Rick. Those ostriches aren't sick.
It's not really just about that. At all. Not at all. It is, but it isn't. It's not really just about the bird flu, although the bird flu is really the predicate for everything that needs to be resolved, especially through the courts. And the people at the farm have had 2 kicks at the can in court so far. Now maybe a third one, as they have a stay of Cull. Again, because they're going through due process and the Supreme Court erring on the side of the farm to give them every opportunity to present their case. And it is being reviewed even as we speak. And I think we will get a decision within a couple of days on whether the Supreme Court of Canada will hear the case, which could potentially challenge the Cull at the Universal Ostrich Farm out in Edgewood, British Columbia. But the whole system is corrupt, Rick, and they don't have, and it's all rigged, and there's no way, and they can't win, and it just shows because they lost 2 times. No, man, they've been given every opportunity to prove their case in court, and they keep on losing. Why? Because they don't have the science to back up their claims. They didn't have the arguments or they just didn't have any arguments to support the idea that their ostriches are unique and should be spared. And so they blame the government for giving them paperwork that they couldn't fill out properly because it's not designed for ostriches, so it's not fair. I don't know. I read it. You could kind of fill it out. But you got to save the ostriches because because they're treating the public like seals. Because they're presenting emotional appeals. They're not the evidence and the real information surrounding the issue is complicated, and it's scientific, and it's political. But who the hell has time for that? You got to save the innocent birds from being murdered. It's the choice of the words that they use, just like the President of the United States, the protesters, the people orchestrating everything out there, choreographing the protest. They're choosing the words carefully, and they are getting better at these protests. Much, much better. They're especially getting better at the information warfare side, where I've seen in the last day or so, Jeff Gaudry on one of his live feeds out of there the other morning, well, on the second morning when, was it the second or the first? When the hay bales caught fire, he was like, we have to have consistent messaging because he's kind of the coordinator of a lot of that social media stuff. He's sort of the main hub. He coordinates it. He coordinates the messaging. It's advertising. It's marketing to you, to me, because there's a war on for your mind. And the protest is an anti-government protest.
I don't feel like a Canadian anymore. Do you ever feel like you just are on some foreign land? Where's our freedom? Where's our choices?
I don't know. I'm so emotional right now. And I've lost the country, and it's not even Canada anymore because Jeff and the social media influencers told me so. And it's all because of the ostriches.
Where's our love? Where's our compassion? Where's our hearts? Save these ostriches, please. They deserve life.
Anybody that's offended by that, think about what this government is doing. You should be more offended than a flag.
Not offended. Not offended. No. Don't call me a Canadian.
I have lost so much faith. Oh God,
I'm done.
Yeah.
Good job there, Jeff. Mission accomplished.
I don't feel like a Canadian anymore.
Mission accomplished. Almost. It ain't over yet. Not quite over yet. Down here. Yeah, they hate their country. Good job. They hate it so much, they burned the flag. Good one. Keep going. We're not the 51st state yet. I'm sure John Catsimatidis would like to have, say, Alberta, maybe BC, maybe a few of those Western states, like just break away from Canada. Why would he do that? Because he's also the biggest purchaser of Alberta oil. He's a billionaire, owns WABC Radio, owns the biggest private grocery store chain in New York State. And he owns a big oil company, a big oil refinery just on the other side of the Canada-US border. And that Alberta oil comes down a pipeline, not across Canada, down into the United States of America and bloop over to his refinery. And he makes lots of coin off that. But I'm sure that he just loves the ostriches. Like, he wouldn't have any other ulterior motive, would he? He's been talking to the Premier of Alberta about it, and she kind of came on side with them ostriches. That's kind of interesting. And Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, he's got that auto industry, and he went out there and met with Daniel Smith, Premier of Alberta, and he's trying to save the auto industry, which is kind of connected to the oil industry. And they need to support each other, and they need each other's support. So, like, yeah, he kind of went, maybe we should be looking at the ostrich thing. Maybe, because John Catsimatidis, and he mentions him by name in that news conference. I can't remember exactly what he said, but you can't say anything bad about John Catsimatidis lest he stop buying all that Alberta oil. Of course, I don't know where else he would buy it. Gets it at a discount. Yeah, but we need to get those pipelines built all across Canada. So we need to separate from Canada to get the pipelines built. What the hell are you talking about? Alberta separates from Canada. Your pipelines ain't going east-west. Not with the big fees charged by other provinces, unless they join you and become part of the 51st state, and then maybe. But that's really the only way that's going to happen if you separate. Otherwise, John Catsimatidis might have to build more pipelines into the United States from Alberta. Oh, you know who else wants to do that? Kevin O'Leary. He has plans to build a big oil refinery in the United States. And who went down there to meet with President Trump, with Daniel Smith, early on when the tariff stuff started? Kevin O'Leary. Not elected, not a representative of Canada, kind of lives down there in the US of A, once ran for, the Conservative Party, the leadership. I used to kind of like him. Now, I'm not so sure. Oh, how do you know, Rick? Because he talked about his plans to build this huge oil refinery on television. That's how I know. Because he needs investors, people to do it with him, and he's got the plan. Well, that ain't building pipelines across Kazakhstan. That's building more pipelines down into the USA. But I'm sure the rich dude, who apparently is nameless, there's apparently more than one, pumping money into that protest out at the farm in Edgewood. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with oil or agribusiness or tariffs or any of that stuff. It's just about gotta save the birds. Gotta save those poor ostriches. For what? What is the cause? What are you doing? Well, I don't know. We're saving the what? What is the end goal? What is it you're trying to achieve? Well, the government sucks. Okay. So you save the ostriches from the cull, and then politically, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve, like, what is the end result of that? What happens to the birds? Well, they need them for research. Oh, well, how are they going to? So now you're going to turn them into lab animals. Already, they're lab animals. Am I talking about this stupid story again tonight? Yup. Why? Because, Rick, it's the story that just won't go away because the protesters, or whatever the hell they are out there, just keep ramping it up. Why don't you just ignore it if you don't want to talk about it? Because somebody has to. Right? So who else is going to talk about it? There are only a few people, and, well, I'm one of them, I guess. Isn't that my job? I don't know. You should just shut the F up. Why? Well, because you're not supposed to tell the truth. You're just supposed to go with the narrative. Yeah, I got the messages. Why don't you shut the F up, Rick? Yeah, that's a message to me. Because if I shut the F up, they'll feed me a fish. Well, then why don't you shut the F up, Rick? Well, because I don't want to lie. I got to sleep at night, and I love my country, and I don't want to burn the flag. We're basically a free country. You want to burn the flag? I guess you can.
I don't
But I'll tell you right now, I'm deeply offended.
feel like a Canadian
As a Canadian.
anymore. Do you ever feel like you just are on some foreign land? Where's our freedom? Where's our choices? Where's our love? Where's our compassion? Where's our hearts? Leave these ostriches, please. They deserve life.
Anybody that's offended by that, think about what this government is doing. You should be more offended than a flag.
Not offended. Not offended.
Nope.
Don't call me a Canadian citizen.
I have lost so much faith. Oh God, I
I'm
can't.
done.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Deeply offended. Yeah, you could move to the States. I don't know, go to Portland. Because, joining the States as the 51st state would be so much better. Because then we could participate in the civil war that they're having. My recommendation as a Canuckistanian to other Canuckistanians is don't do that. Just say no to the US style politics and kind of let's start ignoring all that shit and just be Canadian. And then we don't have to do all that. But we can't because they're out at that farm telling everybody how evil Canada is, not just the government, like Canada, and just shitting all over the country. Oh, yeah. And that's why, they're down there in the U.S. doing the whole conservative, conference circuit and all of that. And for me, this isn't a left-right issue at all. It's just about what the real information is. But of course, it's highly political. So be it. As a result, you're getting this stuff out there on social media tonight. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, I believe this is where Katie Pasitny from the farm denies, or it says that it's a lie that they burned the flag. I think that's what she says here.
Katie with the Universal Ostrich. So let's clear up a few things. There's this incident that they have put online showing that somebody burnt a flag, a Canadian flag here. Nobody has ever, and nobody would ever, burn the Canadian flag, in which that I say we're trying to restore the trust back in Canadians and we are trying to make Canada better again.
Except that she's lied about a shitload of things, and they continue to lie through omission and lie and deceive through the distribution of selective information.
Fuck Canada.
Katie put out a video, and one of the things she talked about was a flag burning. I've mentioned this before more than once on my social media. That was me, okay?
I don't feel like a Canadian anymore. Do you ever feel like you just are on some foreign land? Where's our freedom? Where's our choices? Where's our love? Where's our compassion? Where's our hearts?
Anybody that's offended by that, think about what this government is doing. You should be more offended than a flag.
Not offended.
Not offended.
I'm not going to apologize for that. That is the way I feel.
I could care less. My whole allegiance to this country is done.
The last thing that would happen on this farm is a Canadian flag would be burnt.
I burned the flag. I pulled it out and I threw it on the logs. I burned it.
Nobody has ever, and nobody would ever.
I bought a Canada hat I'll be burning that hat.
We are trying to make Canada better again.
Trump, take us over. Mr. I could care less. Yeah, I could care less. Trump, take us over. I could care less. Yeah, I hate Canada. I hate Canada.
Please do not believe in any of this misinformation that you are seeing or reading.
Right. Thanks for that from the woman who just, what was it? Just before the stay from the Supreme Court came down, she was directly appealing to Donald Trump, asking him to intervene to stop the Cull. Who has direct contact with John Catsimatidis, who is also being financially supported publicly by John Catsimatidis, the billionaire out of New York. Was said he's going to cover whatever costs, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And the fundraisers going on around all of this, huge. Many sources now out there sucking up money. But these birds are special. They're very unique, we're told, because they are needed for research. And they have these very special antibodies. And they'll save humanity. Failed to produce any scientific documents to support that claim in court, which is why they've lost twice. But maybe they'll get to go to the Supreme Court. I suspect not, since very few cases are heard at the Supreme Court level. And if they can't produce better documentation or better proof than what they've already, it's probably not going to happen. But hey, they've got the whole circus ramped up out there, don't they? Yes, they do. And as a result, what was going on out there earlier today, they talk about some of this stuff. Here, I'll give you the video of this. You would think, right? The CFIA, before I show you this clip, put out a statement. And I showed this to you yesterday, but it's relevant here. This is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which remains on site, securing the farm because they have the warrant and they're still there awaiting a decision from the Supreme Court on whether they'll hear the case. But they issued this yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Where's my clip? Did I lose it? No, it's right there. I can't find where I need to click on it. There it is. I found it. It gets lost in the middle. So as you see here, they're talking about how the birds are being fed under veterinary oversight, using feed provided by the ostrich farm. So they're taking care of the birds while they're alive, treating them humanely, which is the law, following the rules. But they say right here that they're between 300 and 330 ostriches on the premises, right there. Well, that's a far cry from the 400 or 398 that we were told were there. We were told, actually, if you go back and you really look at the information, there were over 400 before. But then they had 69 that died because they contracted bird flu. The flock was infected. Presence of the virus confirmed through multiple levels of testing, not just an on-site PCR test, as has been alleged. So that brought the number down to about 400. We were told repeatedly. That's always been the number they've used. Then 2 of the birds mysteriously died. We were told they were shot. Although the evidence surrounding that, I think, is a little sketchy. I don't know if I've still got the clip up here, but, well, it doesn't matter. Some people are saying that those birds were actually had their throats slit, not shot. Where's the proof? Where's the bullets? No shots heard. Well, anyway, that's a sidebar point. Between 300 and 330 on the premises. So that's what the CFIA has counted. So where are the rest of the birds? Asked that question yesterday. Didn't have an answer yet, but there was an answer given earlier today, out at the farm. Let me see if I can cue it up here. I'll just kind of skip to the good stuff. Even here, this is Jeff Gaudry, who was on the program. When they graciously agreed to appear on the program, thank you. Although the broadcast agreement that we came to prior to, they didn't live up to their end. They were supposed to share that broadcast out, but they didn't. I'll tell you right now, I had a conversation with this guy prior to Katie coming on for that. It was a marathon broadcast to explore this issue with Jeff Gaudry. David Dixon was on there. Also, Dr. Stephen Pellick. Katie Pasitny was on. The agreement was that they would promote the discussion, promote the broadcast in advance. They even had me produce a promo, and I sent it to them. And they were supposed to share it out and share it on their platforms as well as on ours so that everyone would get the same information. But they didn't do it. They didn't promote it. All they did was come on and exploit this platform. He lied to me. Never shared it out. One would wonder why. Because it didn't go so well for them. Because I didn't just bend the knee and go, feed me, which is what they were hoping I would do, I guess. But I told them I would ask them real questions. I even had a conversation with Katie Pasitny beforehand and told her that I would. But they got upset. She got upset, cried, and then Jim Kerr, the guy right there with the beard, he jumps into the shot. And anyway, the broadcast continued with Dr. Pellick, and that went on for hours. And I would say that the information he provided too at times was less than factual. Like, you don't need any permits to start your own open-air biolab, or you can get the COVID antigens at Shoppers Drug Mart. Any drugstore, you can get them. You don't need a permit. Yeah, I couldn't get any. They've got them. Also, they've pre-purchased a stockpile of those antigens, which most people don't know, but it's publicly been reported. It's a fact. So they've been sitting on a whole lot of that. They got to recoup the cost. How are you going to do that? The compensation from the CFIA for your birds, that ain't going to cut it. But you would think that, with these extra super special, very, very valuable research birds in your possession.
Above all.
This is Jeff Gaudry right here.
There's one other thing that we really want to touch base on. So I want to introduce Esper. Esper is Karen's son.
Don't need to get into his stuff. He lied to me. They never promoted the video. They just wanted access to you guys on this platform because they wanted to spread their message, and so they just never they never shared it. Suppress it. Get their message out over here, but don't share it because I challenged with serious, real questions as a journalist should. In any event, let me fast forward here.
My good friend.
Because this is the whole thing with the 330 ostriches.
their face. And this is not something that you want to film, right? This is an emergency that you want to make sure that someone is taken care of. So these are the situations where we find the right avenue if we can, but if we can't find that individual, perfectly acceptable to raise your concern. If you our shirt, where is she set up?
Blue tent behind here.
Oh, and in fairness, what they're getting at here, what they're talking about is, I guess their Facebook page, they say, was hacked or whatever, was under some sort of attack, and people are posting stuff. And so he's addressing that. I don't doubt it. There are people on the other side politically who are probably attacking them too, because it's nasty out there and it is an information war. So I don't doubt it. Since it's happening here, I think maybe could be. But he brings up Karen Esperson, Katie's mom, to talk about, if I can find her here. Okay, here she is. They're going to get into the whole issue of like, how many birds are there on the farm? Because we have this case, this mystery of the missing ostriches. What happened? So all the, like, there could be as many as 100 ostriches missing. Where the hell did they go? Did they get them off the farm, trying to save them from the cull just before the CFIA showed up or something? Did they, whisk them out of there? Have they been sent off to other farms someplace? Did they sell them? Did they exist at all? Did they ever have that inventory? These are questions that inquiring minds want to know.
December 31st, 2024.
I've seen people saying that Katie has said there were only 330 ostriches.
Should we?
And then 390.
I'm going to let Karen take that one because she'd be the
this
best
is
one
on the
to answer
number
this
of the
question for you
ostriches.
guys.
Here you go. Everybody's been asking this.
Okay, and this has been a huge question on and off, and we always have said it doesn't matter if there's two, really, because we're saving them, and that's the whole point. That's the point behind them. So it doesn't matter. There's between 300 and 400, and that's what we say. We don't have an exact amount, but we have a very good general idea of how many birds there are. We definitely don't have 400. Why? We lost 69. So if you lose 69, and then we've had one broke his neck in the fence when the helicopters came over, the hen that because of their drones, and then we did. But anytime there's been a loss, like one was down on ice, we documented it so there's an accurate account of losses and where the losses have gone. It is between 300 and 400. But the biggest message here is it isn't the number, and that's why we would never give out a number. It doesn't matter. It's the point we need to save these animals.
Amen. Amen.
No, the number matters. It actually matters a lot. It matters a lot. First of all, if the CFIA provides compensation, I think they were offering somewhere around $3,000 per bird. I can't remember the exact number. I think that's it. So that's a lot of coin. $3,000 times 300 or $3,000 times 400. There's a bit of a difference there. You're talking about a farm operation. This doesn't jive. Sorry. No, it matters if there are 2 or 400 or 300 or 330. CFIA is out there counting them. They want an accurate count. It's important right now because they want to make sure that whatever they do is accurate. How many birds did they kill or cull? Well, I don't know, just slaughter them, just take a machine gun, mow them all down, just round them all up and kind of get a rough estimate will do. No, if you're a farmer, you want compensation for every single bird that is culled through the government program. It's not like these birds were going to be killed and then nothing given to the farmer. Although now, because they've challenged all of this and they've gone to this extreme length and they've ramped up all these costs to the government, to us as taxpayers for this circus that they're running out there, it's costing us a lot of money, taxpayers. So the CFIA is the government is no longer obligated to pay them. But they could have had the compensation. They may still give them compensation. I suspect they will, as a gesture of goodwill, in order to preserve public trust in the system, especially among other farmers. I don't think they'll leave them high and dry, but they don't need to. So that remains to be seen what happens. But it matters. CFIA better have an accurate count. I'm sure that if the CFIA just went out there and just took a rough estimate, they would be accused of shortchanging the farm on the compensation side. And yet here you have a farm operation where they just don't keep very, very close track of the birds. And yet we're told that they had names for them all. How do you name your birds if you don't even know how many there are? So there's a lie. It's got to be a lie. Because we were told that she could name all the birds. Because, they're almost, well, they are their pets, right? Let's face it. Except when they were chopping them up for food and even dog food before they pivoted to full research facility when the pandemic started. And that's because the economics didn't work anymore and the abattoirs were shutting down and they couldn't get their birds to market. That's why they switched to full-blown, just straight-up dedicated research facility. Open-air biolab. No government permits. Then the birds got sick. They tried to hide it. They did not report it as they were required to by law. The CFIA found out because someone, probably a relative, who I think I know who it is because I was told, reported them because they had this horrific death thing going on with all these birds dying, slow, painful deaths. 69 died. The flock was infected and sick. And it wasn't the first time they'd had birds get sick out there. They had other things happen too. And then they were ordered to secure the farm to prevent exposure to wildlife, put nets over the pond where ducks and things flew in so that the ducks wouldn't be able to get in there and interact with the ostriches and infect or reinfect or cross-infect or whatever to mitigate the risk of the spread of the disease. They didn't do any of it. Nothing. No, what they did is they invited people out there for a freaking protest / party / concert. Bring your kids. That's what they did. And scaled it up 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 and never complied with any of the rules. Ever. Didn't. What's that do? It puts other farms at risk. Because it's not so much that people get sick from the virus, although it seems to be, it has happened. Very rarely. One person in Canada who got it from a dog, by the way. Apparently. That's what they think. It's another sidebar story. I know way too much about this story. I wish I didn't. I wish I was just ignorant, because then I'd be in bliss. I'd be a normie. But I'm not anymore. They don't want to follow the rules. That's why they're out there in Edgewood, BC. It's a district. It's not a municipality, and that's not an accident. They are living, their farm operation is this is important for all you sovereign citizens out there. It's in an unincorporated district. This is also why the government is having additional difficulty enforcing the law out there. Because if they were in a municipality, even around here, if you have a farm, you're part of Chatham, Kent. and there are rural areas around here, but it's all part of the Chatham-Kent municipality. And so that is incorporated. Not to say that Canada is just a corporation, but if you're a sovereign citizen weirdo, you might believe that. But the point is, yes, municipalities are incorporated for business purposes, and as such, they provide a lot of services, and they have, through provincial and federal legislation, certain powers as a municipality to put laws, bylaws in place for things like building permits, fire safety standards for buildings, and all these other kinds of regulations. Well, those kinds of and you get garbage pickup Tuesdays, but not in an unincorporated district. You kind of have to take care of your garbage yourself out there. That's why they end up burning their garbage. And that's why you're on well water. You're not serviced with usually pipelines that go into your home. It's country life. It's like homesteading. And you're way off the beaten path. Nobody pays too much attention to you, certainly not the government. That's why they're out there. That's why they're running an open air biolab, which is kind of weird in itself, isn't it? But what a great place to do COVID research without people paying too much attention to you. Up in the mountains of British Columbia, in an unincorporated district. Away from government scrutiny, away from public scrutiny, away from just about everything. They're in the middle of almost nowhere. Cell phone service appears to be available, though, thanks to government grants, where they put up cell phone towers to provide service even to rural areas where they're not making a profit, by the way, not likely, or very little money, if any, because that's not where the big money is. But we in Kazakhstan, we still provide service to even unincorporated districts. That's another sidebar story, which relates to, should we let U.S. cell phone companies into Canada to compete with Canadian companies, which have invested in, along with the government and our tax dollars, the building up and building out of infrastructure for cell phone service, even into very remote areas. These are complicated issues for Canada. But we'd be much better off if we're just part of the 51st state. Would they be? Probably not. But it's just about, you just got to save the birds. Just got to save the ostriches, because, I don't know why exactly. Well, they're not sick, aren't they? See, ostriches, 69 of them died. So they do die. They just don't die en masse quite the way chickens do. Chickens, you get a flock infected, you're looking at 90% kill rate. Because it really hits chickens hard, especially this version of the virus, this novel virus found for the second time, I think, only in Canada at that farm. Very strange that it ended up out there, by the way. There's another little mystery. How did that strain of the virus end up on that farm in that remote location? And I think the only other place in Canada it was found was out on the East Coast. That might warrant some investigation in itself. But I digress. Don't watch this video, though. You should tune out. You don't want to watch this. This might challenge the narrative. Might make you think what you were thinking before isn't true or something. And we wouldn't want that. Feed me a fish. Oh, look at this. I still have this tab open from a few nights ago where I came across this. I didn't even know this guy had published this. I guess we're having an impact to some degree, somewhere, somehow, on somebody, because somebody posted this about what we had done previously with our work on this story. The Castlegar Podium. Oops. Last night on Maverick News Live, Katie, the spokeswoman for the farm, Rick asked her how the ostriches are slaughtered. She responds, "We use halal as the humane way to do it." For those who aren't familiar with the Muslim halal method, below is the procedure. I've also verified it with our large community of embraced Muslim close friends and community they verify it. This false mantra of 400, now 398 ostriches being pets is a false narrative. Further, photos taken and published publicly by Radical Freedom Convoy Rebel News, well, opinions vary, who have been to the farm, which unfortunately I saw, are pretty clear. The two ostriches, which allegedly were claimed to be shot by a drone in the sky, in the in the sky, weren't shot, but rather halaled. Just remember, those who are supporters of the UOF, aside from the disastrous financial nightmare they continue in the courts, for almost 30 years, they slaughtered the ostriches to sell for meat. Here, hang on. Let me get this. I got to put it back up because the computer went down when we went live. I have to bring it back up on another tab. Let me bring that one down and bring it back up over here. Okay. I did ask her about that. I said, how do you, I didn't know. I was just asking her, well, how do you slaughter your birds? How did you slaughter your birds when you're selling them for food? Because they did for a long time. She said, well, we use halal. I went, oh, see, some people that might not sit so well with. They didn't, and I don't think that she didn't say that sometimes they use halal and other times they did it all the time. So if you're buying ostriches from Universal Ostrich Farm, you are buying halal meat, Muslim blessed meat, where they slit the throats. In Islamic law, Sharia, for meat to be halal, permissible, the method of slaughter must follow specific guidelines. These rules apply to ostriches just as they do to other animals that are permissible to eat, like cows, sheep, and chickens. Halal slaughter method for ostriches. Animals must be permissible halal. Ostrich is considered halal in Islam because it is a bird and not explicitly prohibited. To intention and innovation, I can't pronounce those words there. The slaughter must be a sane adult Muslim or Jew or Christian, according to most scholars. Before slaughtering, the name of Allah, God, must be invoked, saying, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, in the name of God, God is the greatest. 3, method of slaughter, zabhiya or halal. The trachea, windpipe, esophagus, and both carotid arteries and jugular veins should be severed with a sharp knife in a single swipe. This must be done without cutting the spinal cord completely. The blood should be allowed to drain from the animal's body thoroughly. Yes, that is correct. Says the ostrich should be treated with kindness before slaughter. They can't see other animals being slaughtered and should not be under stress. And then they slit its throat. Humanely. And I know some people don't like that, but that's the truth. And she didn't want to talk about it because she didn't want anybody thinking about that. But you know what they do want out there? They want cameras. A lot of cameras. Focused, trained, zoomed in to catch all the bloody, gory details in Technicolor to broadcast worldwide when those birds are culled by the CFIA. And they're damn upset that the CFIA cut the cord, the cables going to all the cameras they have set up all over the farm. Sure is a shame because the world's watching, as we've seen on all the signs they put up. I didn't go into this story with an agenda at all. I told everybody I tried to avoid it. I really didn't want to talk about the ostrich story, but people kept harping on me, sending me messages. Rick, why aren't you doing the ostrich story? You need to do the ostrich story. Those ostriches, they need coverage. Oh, all right, I'll do it. And then I was like, holy shit, what is going on out here? I called them up. I started right where you should as a journalist. I started at the farm with the farm owner. I called up Karen Esperson. Nice lady, no issues. She did an interview with me. She basically told me the truth. I have a lot of respect for that. Not all the information was jiving, and it raised a lot of concerns. Like the research into COVID with this university in Japan and antigens, COVID, and birds dying. A lot of it just didn't seem right. So I started looking even deeper and even deeper and even deeper. And the more I dug and the more layers of the onion I peeled back, the more I realized there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. And everything I presented here has been factual. Not just stuff I scraped off the internet from somebody else's propaganda. No, they had an intent to purchase, signed with a mask company that had received a lot of government money, an intent to purchase antibodies because of this claim about what these antibodies can do, and they were going to infuse them into the masks produced by this company, this Canadian company, set up during the pandemic, and they were going gangbusters, and they were expanding, and they were producing tons of masks. And I showed you video from inside the facility, and I was able to track down one of the executives from the company who told me that they never followed through with the intent to purchase because the farm could not produce the actual scientific studies to back up the claims, and they could not produce the product because they would be basically selling something with false promise. And they were a real company, and they were meeting government standards, and they were N95, and they were trying to produce all kinds of different mask products at the time that met NIOSH standards. And that way, if you're wearing a mask, say in a body shop and sanding a car down, as I'm familiar with, you want to make sure that whatever you're wearing on your face, if you're doing that every single day, does the job. So better meet a government standard, a safety standard, so that you're not inhaling particles that could, I don't know, give you some sort of lung disease. And if you're going to wear a mask and try to prevent a disease, I would say it probably makes sense that you would want to meet a certain standard so that people have confidence in the product that they're using, that it's safe and effective. So they couldn't produce the masks. And then that company, by the way, is out of business now because after the pandemic kind of started to wind down, the government money dried up, no more cash cow, and the demand for the masks evaporated. They couldn't survive. They tried to do more industrial masks. They thought this thing with the farm, because the farm owners showed up on their doorstep and they're like, we have the savior of humanity and the antibodies from and they didn't have any science to back it up. So it never happened. The guy out in Japan, He had a government contract of some sort of different contracts in Japan, but never were those masks actually mass produced, and never were they sent into North America. And they were messing around with them during the pandemic. And they were supposed to glow in the dark, or glow under UV light, actually, initially, is what they were doing, to show if you'd been exposed to COVID. That's what those masks were designed to do. They also put nano silver in them. There's even an article on the World Economic Forum website about it. And they praise the research that they're doing at the university with the ostrich antibodies. And everybody was freaking out back then because they didn't want it's WEF. It's the World Economic Forum. COVID, mask. Ah! And now they're all out at the farm. We have to save the COVID birds. But they're not using the word COVID. It's bird flu. But they weren't doing research into bird flu out there at all. It was COVID research. That's what the antibodies were about. But don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, Rick. It's a minor detail. Which brings me back to how many birds you have. If you're running a legitimate farm and you have an animal, livestock, that's worth thousands of dollars, do you not think you might keep track of the inventory? It's not like you say at a hardware store, where in the past, as a kid, I used to go to the old Pro Hardware stores. My mom worked there. And we used to go on the road, and I got occasional jobs helping to do inventory at Pro Hardware stores. So you'd have like a bucket of bolts. And instead of counting every single bolt, you would because they're worth like a penny, right? Or 2 cents today, probably $10 each. You would estimate when you get into those aisles and you're doing inventory. You'd look if it's half full, and you'd kind of take account of how many are on top, and you'd kind of figure out how many. It's kind of like guessing how many jelly beans in a jar to win a prize. That's what you would do at the hardware store for inventory. Otherwise, you're sitting. Sometimes you would count every single nut and bolt, depending on how much they were worth. But if you put something that's worth a penny or 2 cents, you take an estimate. If it's half full and it had 1,000 in it to begin with, you say 500. But if you've got an ostrich that's worth $3,000, maybe 5,000, or if the research that you've been doing with them truly makes them incredibly unique and incredibly valuable, like maybe they're worth $10,000 each, wouldn't you think you would keep closer check on how many you have? I would be keeping track down to the bird. That's just if you're running a farm operation. Now, I can see if you've got a major poultry operation with, say, chickens, and you have like 1 million birds, your inventory, maybe it might get a little bit loose, but even in an operation like that, I guarantee you, they're within probably 1 to 3% accuracy when they're doing inventory. And they need to be, because if they get audited by Revenue Canada in Canada or the tax police in the US, you better know, especially if you're a big operation. And that farm, not a small little operation, that has been the largest ostrich operation in Canada. Part of their business has been supplying other farms with birds. Now, I don't know if the birds they've been supplying were injected with COVID antigens before they sent them out to other farms or not. I don't know, but I do know at least one of the other farms that I spoke with was offered a business opportunity, also participating in the COVID research. And the owner of that farm, pretty upset when I called, because it was pretty clear that they thought they might have a problem, since suddenly out in the unincorporated districts that they lived in, they were starting to get some heat, some scrutiny. Because maybe somebody ain't really been following the rules. the interesting and weird thing is, well, the farm owners have been fined for not complying with some of the rules since the birds became ill. And a lot of them died. 69 isn't like a couple. It's a lot. Even though they've been fined, seems to me, from everything I've looked at, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's going on out there that probably is a violation of a lot of different laws. Just me wondering if they are, why haven't more charges been laid? Because the government's kind of taken a light touch with this. I think to some degree to give them opportunity, make sure that they get their full due process. But I also have to wonder, why hasn't the government been a little bit more proactive on questioning some of this COVID stuff? Because the government's not really talking about the COVID research at all either. It's all really hush-hush, quiet. Nobody really wants to talk about that on either side. I find that strange. It's just the bird flu. That's all. The court case is focused on that for sure. But nobody wants to talk about the COVID stuff. Just put it over there. Yeah, they're probably wishing they hadn't talked about it at all at this point. Inconvenient. But hey, I'm a lone voice. I'm a maverick way over here, all alone. And they didn't share my broadcast out where we did talk about it for 8 hours. And they don't need to, I guess, because they've got the full court information warfare press on right now with a managed narrative. That's right. They have to have, in Jeff Gaudry's words, the guy who's coordinating things out there at the farm, in his social media post, said we have to have consistent messaging. Yeah, you do, for an effective campaign. 100%. Got to have consistent messaging. Yeah, kind of like this.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
But make sure you don't listen to me, because apparently I'm lying. I'm making it all up. Yeah, guess so. Guess Katie Pasitny says so. Don't listen to those lies. All those lies. And I know there are people sort of on the left side of the political spectrum who are posting stuff that is not favorable to the farm right now. I'm hardly left, but I am about truth. And I don't care who gives me the truth, if the truth is the truth, and a lie is a lie, and I'm pursuing the truth. And I don't care if the person is a socialist, a communist, a fascist, a nothing, just a average, ordinary, regular Canuckistanian, if you're giving me information and it's real and it's true, I'm inclined to use it. If it's verifiable, if it's true, if it meets the standard. You know, the other thing is that not only is my internet being cut off and there's information warfare going on, it goes beyond that. It's about coercion out there tonight. I don't like it. I never wanted to believe it. Certainly dismissed a lot of these kind of claims in the past, leveled at some of these perennial protesters. But I believe it when I hear the reports and the complaints and the actual formal complaints filed with police about protesters throwing rocks at CFIA vehicles. Yeah, it probably happened. People are emotional. I believe it. You know why I believe it? Because they are using coercion. I find it gross and distasteful. To some degree, I tolerate it. I get it as part of the process. But they're taking it to a pretty high level out there with all these calls to businesses, putting pressure on them to not sell or do business in any way with people from the CFIA or maybe even police, but certainly the CFIA. And we've seen companies comply. See, it's one thing to say, I'm not going to support a business. I don't buy Gillette products anymore because they had that ad campaign that I found really offensive, the way that they portrayed men in it. You would say that that was kind of a very woke ad campaign. You may not recall it. It was be the best you can be. And it was basically about how men are dicks. And so I said, that's it. They're talking to me. They're insulting me as a man. I'm their customer. I'm not like that to begin with. I try not to be. And I think we've all evolved as human beings and men over the years. I certainly have. But I'm not like that. So I won't buy Gillette. Haven't. Not one Gillette product. And I try to avoid the corporation, buying anything from the corporation that is the parent corporation of Gillette. But I used to buy Gillette products all the time. Anyway, they're putting pressure on businesses out there to just not, provide service of any kind to the CFIA, the car rental business, and now all the local businesses getting pressure. One thing to say, I'm not going to support them. Something else again to start phoning around saying, don't you dare, business owner, sell to this person because we're having a political protest out at our farm. Don't you dare. Or maybe you don't say, don't you dare. Say, okay, we're asking everybody not to do this. And you've got a giant protest going on out there, small town, not even a town, an unincorporated district. Not, the CFIA is going to be gone later. And the farm owners, they're still going to be there, and they've got some people. See, yeah, so there's a lot of pressure. Coercion? I don't like it. There's no freedom in that. I guess you could put out a call, say, I hope that these businesses don't, but they have actual campaigns. Like, phone this business, bombard them. And then if the business complies, as a lot of them have, or say they will, then they go and say, go leave them positive reviews. But if you don't comply, you get negative reviews on your social media. You can destroy a business that way. How do I know that? Oh, yeah, could be because it's happened to somebody I know. Pretty close. I will not comply. Go ahead.
Ostrich Farm are speaking out, saying the outrage over a cull ordered by food inspection.
This is a story from one of the area television stations out there in BC about how local residents don't like the coercion coming from the farm. Global News.
Controversial Ostrich Farm are speaking out, saying the outrage over a cull ordered by food inspection officials is threatening their safety. Protesters have descended on the farm since the Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered the flock of hundreds to be destroyed after avian flu killed more than 60 birds on the farm months ago. The Supreme Court of Canada has granted a stay, sparing the birds for now. Edgewood resident Randy Doncelar says some of the protesters opposed to the cull are violent and have made local residents, many of them seniors, fear for their safety.
I have concerns about the inability of the locals wanting to speak out now at this time because they're concerned about their safety and the actions of the Universal Ostrich Farms and the protesters. Look how they go after businesses and even locals, calling them a hate group. Locally, there was some sympathy. There probably still is, and I think there's general sympathy for the birds, but not for the farm itself due to their inability to be forthright and honest from the get-go.
Doncelar says, contrary to the protesters' claims, the Food Inspection Agency isn't out to destroy farms or disrupt the food chain, but instead to protect the Canadian food supply and its reputation around the world. Coming up to
I believe it. There was a time, especially during the Freedom Convoy, when I would have said no, because I did. But when we resurrected this news channel during the Freedom Convoy, Brendan was with me at the time. And I said to him, and we agreed, we were going to show people the truth, or at least try to. And I said, it doesn't matter. If cops do something bad or the government does something bad, we let people know. And if somebody on the freedom side does something bad, we let people know. We just tell people the truth. Because that's what a platform like this is supposed to be for. And we give people a voice. And the reason we did it was because we were like, people have been so mistreated during the pandemics, the lockdowns, the masking, the mandates, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Give a voice to the voiceless. And that's what this was about. Freedom. Because the truth will set you free. Maybe. That's why I sit here every night, trying to save the country. Get it back. Restore freedom through journalism. And I found myself on the front lines of the information war. Nothing could prepare me for it. And so even as we watched everything unfolding through all these live streams, many of which we restreamed in order to give people the fullest picture possible of what was going on during the Freedom Convoy, and I thought we were. And the accusations came in even at that time of, a problem here, a problem there, and we didn't see video of that. So I was like, well, if it didn't on the video, probably didn't happen. They're making it up. Kind of like here. See, it's not just what you see. It's what they don't show you. And I learned, it's taken me a while to realize, because this is a new medium, social media, all of this stuff, it's been evolving. And it's changed so much, even just in this period of time from the Freedom Convoy to today. AI wasn't even a factor back then. That's like the old days. But there was a lot that those streamers who were pro-freedom convoy weren't showing us. I'm not saying that the whole convoy was bad. I'm not. Still very supportive of basically Canadians going out there and doing what they did. It made a difference. It was a good thing. I'm glad it happened. But there were people out there who, you know, we've learned had other motives. Separatists, political motives, 51st staters. Oh, yeah, it was a thing even back then. But those streamers, of course, they weren't going to show us any of the bad things, only the stuff that supported the narrative, that furthered the information war from their side. And because virtually all the streams were on that side at the time and were amplified by the algorithms, by foreign governments or whomever, or corporations or whatever, I don't know why or what the motive was other than to disrupt the country, but they were amplified. I know because our channels were amplified massively. Hundreds of thousands of people watching at any given time. That's not just organic. And even as all that was going on, the streamers were complaining that they were still being suppressed. And yet they were racking up huge numbers in social media during the protest. Somebody, maybe from another country, was going to benefit from that. Anyway, but I was like, oh, come on. This bad thing happened over there. No, they're just lying because you can't trust those guys. Yeah, you couldn't. But not everything they said was a lie. And not everything they said over here was the truth either, because there was deception through omission. They're just pushing a narrative. So in that regard, I sort of apologize tonight for not being a little more thorough or intuitive even in the way that we presented that information back then, so that you're maybe armed with a little bit more caution and therefore maybe being a little bit more skeptical of everything you're seeing, like everything from police to the freedom protesters. So too should we be skeptical watching all of this out at the farm, because they're not showing you everything through these streams. I heard or saw a post saying that the CFIA is just now looking at maybe doing something online, social media, to sort of push back against all of this, this gigantic wave of social media campaigning, this information war that's being ramped up out there that far, with all these influencers coming online. But I don't know if it's even true. I haven't seen anything to support that. CFIA, government agency, basically just issuing their release online on their website, and they leave it at that. They're not even doing interviews, which might be wise. They're just like, nope, this is what it is. And then that's where I get it. That's where the other media gets it. It's all there for you. You can just Google it. It's on their website. But they're not putting like a spokesperson out there. They don't have a team of influencers pushing their narrative. It's just, here's the information. And then they go about their business. They've never really been easy to deal with as a journalist, I can tell you that. I've had past dealings with the CFIA. Don't always agree with what they do. What's going on at that farm? It's not good from any perspective as far as I'm concerned. It's all weird. It is stuff that's just, I don't think is right. It's clearly not right. It's a mess. But save the ostriches. Yeah, really? Who's out there asking you to save the ostriches? You know who it is? I see a lot of the same faces that we've seen every summer at these various demonstrations. There was the one on the side of the highway that, what was his name? Ron Clark. He did that one. That was like last year. There was the leading up to the Save the Children thing. Then there was like there were those guys, just a lot of the same people, went out to that farm outside of Ottawa. What a clown show that was. And they were like, oh, we're out here because they were trying to put together some sort of a protest convoy thing, blah, blah, right? And just all summer, just disruptive. And we covered some of that stuff. And they're out of that farm. The owner was ill. As I recall, farm owner had cancer. And what did they achieve? What did they do? They said they claimed they were out there helping the farm owner at that time do chores, fix things up. All these protesters camping there, rent-free, all summer. And then they'd go into Ottawa, down on Wellington Street, do their thing, surveil the Parliament buildings or whatever the hell they were doing, heckle the politicians, do live streams, try and build an online social media following, do it. I don't know what they were doing. And then they got a fight out there, and then the fight became theatrics, and then that generated more. The fighting, the conflict also, generated a lot of their online views. It was theater. Like the guy jumping on the hood of the car of another protester and punching the windshield to break it, or so it seemed. It was all a performance. And then in the end, what did they do? They left, and they left behind a giant mess and damage to the farm. And the poor farm owner, who was ill, couldn't clean it up. And some guys came from, I think it was V4F. They went out there, cleaned it up, helped the guy. They had to clean up the mess. One freedom group cleaning up a mess from that freedom group. And I just see these things happening. It's like I said, perennial protesters. And here we go again. This is just the latest thing. Support the latest thing. Oh, but it's all about, we have to save the ostriches. Yeah, support the cause. What's the cause? What are you achieving? What are you doing out there? Are you saving the country? Was there some political goal? What is it? Once you save the ostriches, what do you get? What's the real objective at the end? By saving the ostriches, well, we have to save them so they can continue to be used as lab animals. Oh, that doesn't seem very humane. So you're going to subject them to a continued future after 30 years of that? Or whatever they've been doing to them out there for 30 years or so, they say? And just continue with that? Usually lab animals, they'll either, if they can be, they're sometimes sent out to homes or places where they can live out the rest of their lives. I remember I interviewed the guy down near the farm that Dr. Oz has down in Florida, because Dr. Ostrich offered to take the ostriches from Canada to his farm. So I called around and I talked to some of the people in that community around Dr. Ostrich's farm in Florida, and met Oz, the Wizard of Oz. I talked to some of the people around there, and one of the guys I talked to, we did the whole interview here. He takes in animals that have been used for lab research, and he has donations, and I don't even know if he does have donations. He might just finance it himself. Anyway, I think he just pays for it himself, so he doesn't have to rely on donation. And he just treats the animals humanely and gives them a place to live out their remaining days. There's all kinds of different animals on this farm. Really cool story. Well, those ostriches, but he ain't going there. He said, I don't want those birds. After I told him what they'd been doing to them, he didn't want them. They don't really have any value. They're worth kind of zero because they've been experimented on repeatedly for a long time. And they've been doing things that we're not even sure what they were doing before they did the COVID stuff. And yet they were still putting them into the food chain. We know that because they posted it on their Facebook page, selling eggs and meat to families. Save the ostriches. Something not right there. That's what it looked like to me. That's what I saw when I started digging into it. If I'm wrong, I'll run a retraction. I will. But we had Katie on the show to speak to it. Everything was kind of going along, and then she got upset and just walked off. We got about, how long did we have her on for? 45 minutes or so? So we got a lot of information out of, from Katie, and I got a lot from her mom in the initial interview that I did. And so the saga continues out there. And they are winning because they have that whole team of social media influencers who are just regurgitating the narrative over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they have funding. There's a lot of money going in there. See, like I say, the birds, I don't think really have much value, if any, because you can't put them into the food chain because they've been experimented on. You can't, well, they're not really valid for much research. I don't think, maybe. You can't really do anything with them on the research side because, one, they don't have a proper facility for research out there because it's an open air environment and they can't control that environment. You have wildlife coming in there. They can be exposed to all kinds of different bacteria, all kinds of different viruses, including bird flu. Who knows what can come in? If you're conducting research, you need a controlled environment and you need animals, if you're going to do that kind of thing. A lot of people don't like animal experimentation, but if you're going to do it, you need that animal to be clean, essentially, so that you know what you're starting with. You want something that's fresh from the beginning, that hasn't been injected with a bunch of stuff prior to that, so that you don't get sort of cross-contaminated information or results coming back. And I guess it depends on what kind of research you're doing and what you're doing with the animal, whether it's a factor or not, what you've done with them before. But once you've kind of used an animal for research purposes, generally speaking, the animal is retired. So you don't keep doing it over and over and over to the poor animal. Not only that, this is the other reason why the whole issue over how many birds there are, it's very freaking important. Important from the one side, if you're running the farm. You want an accurate inventory, especially because, they're worth a lot of money. Not only for, an expense in your expense column, what did it cost to keep this bird alive for Revenue Canada and taxation purposes and accounting, but also if you're on the research side of things, you need to know exactly what's going on. You would, if you're in a research facility, I guarantee you, a legitimate research facility where they're doing research on animals, they know exactly how many, if they're doing it on birds or rats or what, they know exactly how many they have. Always. To the animal. Because if one dies, that's a major thing. That's something you really need to take note of as you're working through your experiment. Start with your hypothesis. You go through the scientific method. Well, how many animals do you have in the beginning? I don't know. There's somewhere between 3, 4, 500, whatever. Okay, so now you're doing this experimentation. You've been injecting them with all this stuff for 6 months. How many do you have now? Oh, I don't know, 300, 400, I don't know, something in that range. Well, how do you know if what you're doing to these birds is safe? Well, because look, there's some alive over there. Therefore, because some are still alive, I don't know how many, but some, they're still there. They must have immunity, herd immunity. It's obviously you got to save them because they'll save humanity. How many did you start with? Don't know. How many do you have left now? How many died? Don't know. About 300, maybe 400, somewhere in that range, give or take 100. But we're a legitimate scientific research facility. That's why the CFIA is so unfair to us, because we have all the scientific research that we done out here, and you got to save them because there's some still alive. Prove me wrong. I didn't say it. They said it. It's legitimate scientific research. We don't know how many we started with. We don't know how many we ended up with. But some are still alive. So when they did the research with Tylenol, for crying out loud, they got a sample group together, and they don't know how many people they gave it to. They put them all in a well, they just started giving it out. They started with like a bunch of people, and they gave Tylenol to them. And then they went back later to see if any were still alive. And some of them were, not sure how many. So they said it's okay. Operation Warp Speed. For crying out loud. What we done is we had a pandemic thing come through, the China virus. So I'm the president, and what I got to do is I got to save the world. So I just signed an executive order, and I said, just whatever you're doing with that new mRNA digital technology, we'll just say it's okay. We'll call it, like Star Trek, Operation Warp Speed. Okay? Yeah, that's a good one. That just cut the government regulations right out. And we'll just say it's okay. Well, you do a test or something. Give it to some people. Give it to some people. And then after a while, if any of them are still alive, I don't know how many. Are they still alive? Yeah, some are. They're still breathing. Must be okay then. Well, I'm the president. It's approved. Safe and effective. You could take this. You might live. but I've got it wrong. I didn't take the jab. You know what? People putting pressure on me. I know for a fact some of the people who are about there like, you should STFU. I know them. And they've told me. I don't know, not all of them, but some of them for sure. But I'm the one who is gullible. I'm the one who's drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm the one who's fallen for it. I didn't fall for it. I did kind of get duped at times when I was watching some of the stuff online and learning what this social media stuff's all about, being an old media bird myself. It's been a learning curve because this is all new. It was firsthand experience, learning on the job. School of Hard Information Warfare knocks. Nothing that I'd ever been through before really fully prepared me for what I'm experiencing or going through sitting in this chair, fighting this information war night after night after night after night. But I didn't take the jab. Nor am I going to, because it hasn't been around long enough for me to say, I think that stuff's probably okay. I still see some people breathing. I'm not as obsessed with it as some people. I don't know if I should believe all of the really negative stuff that people say about it, because I've seen other things. For instance, just so that I can give you some balance, I do have an open mind about all these things. I know someone who runs a nursing home, a retirement home. When the pandemic came, everybody, all the residents, every single one, vaccinated. Out of all of it, out of the whole place, and it's a pretty big facility, nobody died. Since then, even though it's a retirement home, only a few people have actually passed away, and it's from they're old people and nothing unusual. It's not like there's been mass death or anything like that. So to me, that's a pretty good sample size if you want to be a statistician. You want to know how the numbers work on these things and what's the what's the level of probabilities. So it's a good sample size. Everybody got it. And I could go in and I'll tell you this, they know at that facility exactly how many residents they have to the human being because they have an inventory. It's not like we had some people living here, then we gave them this thing, and then we came back a few months later and some of them were still breathing. The other ones weren't there anymore, and we don't really know what happened. Might have just walked away, or who knows? No, they know. And they weren't conducting an experiment. They were just doing what all the retirement homes are told to do at the time. Now, even now, I'm still skeptical because I hear a lot of other stories too. But given all the information warfare and the misinformation and the propaganda and the lying that's been going on all the way around, I don't know what the hell to believe half the time anymore. Maybe more. But I do know this. When somebody is trying to convince me of something by manipulating my emotions, I get skeptical. And then my nose for news kicks in. Then I start to dig and I question. And then when people try to coerce me, you should STFU. And kind of subtle hints too that if you just go with the flow, man, and you'll give you a fish. But when somebody's trying to manipulate me by manipulating my emotions, I get really nervous. Whether it's to convince me to support the latest thing like saving an ostrich, or some ostriches somewhere between, I don't know, 300 and 330 or 400, however many, I don't know. There's a bunch of them, though. They all got names. Or whether it's try to convince me to go out into the streets and participate in a civil war, I get skeptical. Forgive me. I'm a journalist. Yeah. Yeah. And tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be back sitting in this chair, just doing my best to bring information that helps get us all a little bit closer to the truth. So at that time, I will bring you another antivirus program for your mind. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling low, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, won't you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a bird. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.